In this podcast episode, we're going to be covering a review of an entire course I did called Personal Brand Creator Pro. It's getting more and more well known, especially in the social circle, dating, 10x your status type of content online. It's by someone called Corey Shaloff, who has his own business and success as a acclaimed videographer shooting in Miami, Las Vegas, New York for various top brands like Maxim, Tao, Playboy, Tory Lanez, and so forth. And some of you may know him from Real Social Dynamics, which was used to be one of the biggest dating coaching companies out there for many years. He did a lot of the videography for them. So, he has a lot of experience in that dating field. Now, this is not necessarily a dating or pickup artist course. This is a personal brand course. Along the way, it, makes the claim, the promise to 10x your social status in order to increase one of three areas, depending on what you want to focus on. You can use it to increase your dating success. You can use it to increase your career and business by driving more leads and sales to whatever you're selling, or you can use it for networking to network with more high status men. And I think there's side benefits as well, such as you can use this to leverage it and turn it into some type of business where you're doing a value arbitrage and getting free shoots or stays at hotels or with fancy cars or exotic car companies and whatnot. I find it to be a very unique niche. I can't think of more than one other person selling something even close to like this. And so it's definitely its own category, of course, which makes it, there's no alternative. Like if you want to learn more about this, you buy this or like two other people I know selling something like this. And so there's definitely a market, a lot of people, there's a lot of classmates in this course. And I finished the course. It took a long time, about probably like 2 to 3 months. I had to go through over 300 videos. This course is jam-packed. There's many modules in the course, and there's 300 videos to complete. That said, I don't think you need to complete even close to like half of it before you start seeing some serious value. I don't think even the creator, I don't think he expected anyone to actually finish the course. But I think I did it in record time. I think I finished the first pass in like a month and a half just because I was very committed to it. And then after that, I've just been like rewatching videos. And I just felt like I was in a good position to give a full review about the pros, cons, and full trade-off of this course. Was it worth it? What did I like? What did I didn't? No holds barred. I'll be honest here. And I wanted to wait until I finished a substantial portion of the course to give a full review. And now that I have, let's get into it. So let me just, touch a bit more on the benefits before diving into some of the general areas that the course teaches you on, and then go from there. So I think the benefits, as I already outlined, it's the promise is it'll 10x your status, your personal branding online, your career, your sales, your networking, to network with high value men and be seen as high value. And now all of this stuff is very important to attracting higher qualities of the opposite gender, or more sales and business, more credibility, more raises at your job, or more business as a whole. And that's the claim. And I think on top of that, it's kind of one of those like social circle / social media mastery courses. This one specifically focuses on Instagram because Corey, the creator, he still believes Instagram above TikTok and any other platform, is the best place of showcasing your entire social proof in a snapshot, with photos and videos. And it's still the go-to place for networking, connecting, and so forth. And, he breaks that down in detail in some of the free material, and, free trainings. I think he has like a whole 10 video free training course you can go through if you're just interested in learning more. I actually set up a link for that. It's dreamlifelab.org/PBCP, all in lowercase. So you could check that out. But he goes into detail as to why Instagram is the best one, not TikTok. Mainly because photos can tell so much really quickly about a person. And yeah, I think, anyone who's been studying, dating or evolutionary biology, knows that, men are valued for their status, what they can offer, what they can build and provide, more so than, their looks. I mean, their looks matter too, but not as much as women. So he really emphasizes that in the course. Now, there's various things that the course goes into detail on. Let me just give you a brief overview about some of the modules. So there is a whole module on photography and videography equipment to potentially consider. That said, I would say a lot of my classmates just use an iPhone or a phone of some sort. But, if you want to up-level yourself, which he highly recommends for higher quality content, he goes into the equipment. There's an entire dating module with about 30 videos in it. There's a module on smartphones. If you want to do all of this with just your smartphone, there's a module on that. There's a module on creating Instagram reels and building your reels to succeed with that. There's a whole module with about 15 videos on mindsets and what mindsets lead to what behavior that indicates high status and success, and what behaviors you should avoid to avoid looking low value. And I'll definitely share you some tips. I don't think he would mind, because there's 300 videos, 300 hours of content in there. Maybe a little less, because not every video is an hour. Videos are usually about 10 minutes. So I'll share you a bit here and there as I go about things I learned in these. But beyond that, he talks about branding. He talks about the 8 main archetypes and how to choose the right archetype for your Instagram. And he talks about editing in Premiere Pro if you want to make videos, editing in Lightroom and Photoshop if you really want to optimize your videos. He talks about posing. He talks about landing clients and starting a business from this if you want to do that. And he talks about, building and throwing events. He talks about growing on social media, optics, and there's also a module on drones and FPV shooting if you want to create a more cinematic video experience. So those are the big things he covers, and he has guest stars on the show that he's good friends with, like Michael Sartain and Justin Ross Lee. So you have various videos by them. Those are usually longer, 1 hour interview type of videos that really go into detail about just how they think and how they think about Instagram and tips there. And there's all sorts of freebies as well. He throws in his Lightroom presets and video LUTs if you want to just have those things optimize your photos for you and do 90% of the work. And then he has bi-monthly Q&A sessions and just a bunch of other stuff. Premiere Pro presets. He has a budget calculator if you want to get into the videographer freelancing world. And so I think there's a lot that it offers, and I really think it was worth it. I will go over some pros and cons because I do think just for it to be an honest, trustworthy review, I have to tell you the cons and the pros, the things I liked and didn't like. But in general, I thought it was so worth it for many reasons. And I'll break down specific tips I learned throughout this podcast, and I'll also go into what I liked and didn't like, and what I learned and why I thought it was worth it. So let's start with why I thought it was worth it. So I thought it was really worth it because, frankly, I really think the level of my photos and my Instagram increased substantially after taking this course. And I just realized how many things I was doing wrong and why my Instagram photos kind of sucked. And I started noticing how most of the other peers and friends I know who use Instagram, or people I meet, especially men, they have terrible Instagrams. Their photos don't make sense, or their photos just really suck, and they don't know why. So that was a huge game changer, and I think one of the biggest revelations you'll make that I made was I realized I went to so many cool spots over my lifetime for vacation or whatnot. Maybe I was a tourist there, and I took some terrible photos, whether they were selfies or I just randomly handed someone my phone and asked a stranger to take the photo, and they sucked on so many accounts. And I didn't realize why. I didn't notice why. And therefore, when I posted them, looking back, I can't even post them anymore because they look low value. And even though I was in a high status location or something, I missed an opportunity. And so I'm kind of thinking back like, oh man, if I only knew these tips then, I would have had a high quality photo I could have documented and added to my collection and profile. Instead, I got this shot with like 50 people in front of the Oculus in New York City. It's grainy, it's low quality. I look like a tourist. I'm staring right at the camera. My fashion's off point. It just looks terrible, so I can't use it. But the good news is, moving forward, now, I'm still relatively young, and now I've learned from my mistakes. So I'm going to share you some of the tips I learned from the, just basic photography section of the course. And I don't think Corey would be mad with me sharing some tips because, like I said, there's over 300 videos in there. And he has a whole, 10 module video course that's free for anyone interested, which you can get at dreamlifelab.org/pbcp. So just sharing, 10, 20 tips is nothing compared to what his course offers. But I think these tips are going to be high impact and high value for you. So just real quickly, there's a lot of things to go through. But when you take a photo, one, take it with no other people in the photo. You can wake up early to get there early, or he also teaches you how to Photoshop out people quickly. There's various ways, and then with the new generative AI fill feature in Photoshop, those things make it super quick and easy to take out people. But if you have a bunch of people in your photos with you, you look like the average guy who went on a tour and visited a place with everyone else. But when you're alone in the photo in a high status place, it looks really cinematic. It looks like you're in a movie, and it looks like you rented out the place, or at least you have that ideal of, oh man, this looks more exclusive. Another thing he recommends is you don't look straight at the camera. It's an amateur move. He explains many reasons why. The first one is that when you're trying to build a story or tell something like a movie, movies never look at the camera because it breaks the story, because the characters don't know they're being filmed. It's not a, something where they're being filmed for or taking photos of. They think they're in their own world. So it creates a more cinematic experience, like you're actually there exploring when you don't look at the camera. And then he goes into all these other tips and details, specific framing of the rule of thirds to position yourself in the frame in the best place, how to optimize the colors, contrast, and saturation to improve and increase the colors so they look great. And then selecting destinations is another big thing. Most people choose the wrong ones. So there's a whole thought process he goes through on how to actually choose a destination. One big objection people make when, or one issue some classmates have is, oh, I can't afford to go to this $1,000 hotel and take the shot. And his response is, he pulls up his profile and he shows like at least 50% of his photos are in places that are free to go to, whether it's the lobby of a hotel or a public but really cool destination. And he argues that any city or area you live in has these high status places. You don't have to live in New York City or Dubai to get these. You just need to have the right thought process to find them. Now, I found this to be something that is a skill set that you need to work on, because I've watched all the Q&A videos that he's filmed, and a lot of the students still get it wrong, where they think a place is high value, they'll show the photo, and in his review, he'll say, yeah, this is not what I'm talking about. So, for example, they'll take a huge, wide-angle lens photo in front of an old government building with, decent architecture. But, you really want to go for things that are really aesthetically pleasing or, more indicative of high status. A government building, not as much as, a pool in a hotel in Dubai, or a high-end ritzy lounge, or in front of the Oculus in New York City, which is public and free to go to, but highly sought after location. And I think he really shows you the thought process, and it's taking me. I'm still working on it, and I'm still improving, but it's taking me a lot of effort to really get better at selection of locations. So one place I went to, for example, was Cathedral Rock, which is an amazing hiking destination in Sedona, Arizona. In fact, the hike itself and the shuttle there cost $0 literally. There's no entrance fee, there's no permit. The shuttle is paid for by the city, which is crazy. I found there is some truth to that. I was struggling a bit because a lot of his locations were kind of high end, like I don't know, the Taj Mahal or the Burj Khalifa, or some infinity pool in Mexico. But then he pointed out his thought process and how you can find free to go to or more accessible locations. And he even has like a map, a Google Maps map, where in a few high level cities he's already marked out some locations for you. So if you're in that area, you don't have to guess yourself. You can already just go to the ones he's designated. So some of them may be lobbies of high-end hotels, but some are just like public places that are really cool to visit in Sedona. Or another one was Horseshoe Bend in Page, Arizona. I paid $8 for parking, and that's it. Like, that's the only fee you have to pay to see this world-renowned location. It's this giant canyon overlooking this river that moves in kind of waves. So you get the canyon and the river. It looks incredible, and yeah, I think it does go to show you that you can convey high status without spending a boatload. And he also talks about that with style and fashion. So yeah, there's no restrictions to style and fashion, where you don't necessarily have to spend a boatload to look stylish and fashionable or high status, which is also really interesting. I think he also talks about how you get compliments for it now. Whereas back in the day, if you're trying to dress high status when you weren't, in ancestral times, you may have been beat up for it. But nowadays, it's welcome. Like if you wear that, no one's holding you back from that, and people may even compliment your look. So very interesting points here. Now I do have a lot of other tips I can give you, and we will get to some more tips. However, I also want to get to some pros and cons of the course, things that I liked, things that I thought could have been better. And I actually want to touch on frequently asked questions as well, and how I actually stumbled across this course and ended up purchasing it. So first and foremost, how I stumbled across this course was actually through Michael Sartain, who I interviewed on my podcast various times back in the day. I think my first interview with him was around 2013, 2014. As at the time, it was he was a millionaire, and the focus was on how he made his money, any tips he had for making money and succeeding as a millionaire, and in Las Vegas where he resides. And then since then, as some of because he's getting pretty famous now in many manosphere circles, Michael Sartain has kind of blown up on social media. He has various podcasts, and he just talks a lot about dating, social circle networking, high status networking, and building a lifestyle where you're surrounded by tons of beautiful female friends, which elevates your status and elevates your success with women. And he brings on all these women onto his podcast, and they get into controversial topics or debatable topics about science, dating, and evolutionary biology. The point being, he's since then kind of moved into this kind of dating realm, social circle space, and he's also like selling this coaching program now, Men of Action, which he actually did talk about in my last interview with him, which was probably somewhere around 2017, 2018. And at the time, at the end of that interview, he said, I'm thinking about starting a coaching program. Well, that did and is still doing exceptionally well. From what I can tell, he charges like $10K for the coaching program, and people will pay in droves for that. Apparently, he's making millions per year from that coaching program. And so, he's selling this like lifestyle, and I think the one thing that he can do that I've yet to see many other dating coaches ever do is show and demonstrate proof, which sounds obvious. Like, why don't other dating coaches demonstrate proof? Like, it's easy to say you're funny. It's another thing to prove it and make someone laugh. But yeah, he's like the first dating coach where a lot of his photos are with tons and tons of attractive women. And he does that partially because he's trying to sell something. But it really was kind of like eye-opening. Like, oh, wow, these other dating coaches, they just talk to a camera. There's almost never any evidence. And so the point being, I found about Corey through Michael Sartain, because Michael was really selling this new idea of improving your dating life by building a social circle of women and organizing events around that, rather than the kind of fruitless, high effort, low result method of cold approaching women on the street or at the mall, and just constantly getting rejected, and then wasting your time at a mall as a grown adult, and then rarely it ever leads to anything, and rarely that's where women actually meet men that they date, as Michael points out through his own interviews with these women. And then it was an interesting idea, because I think there's a lot of truth to that. Plus it's very like high effort, low impact, low result, and then like as a grown adult, like you really going to dedicate like 6 hours walking around in a mall when you have nothing to buy. It's just kind of a little bit off. And so, point being, he has this own unique, maybe over the top approach, and I was intrigued by him and just kind of absorbed a lot of his content out of curiosity. And eventually, I found Corey too. I don't remember how. I think many people in Michael Sartain's free forum mentioned Corey just in the comments and whatnot. So through that forum, I found Corey, who was selling something more similar, but much more affordable than 10K. And so that was something within my price range that I can purchase. Everyone has a different price range. Clearly, there's people who won't bat an eye at spending 10K. But for me, this was much more doable. And so that's what I did. It was still a huge investment. It's around $600. And I just found it to be well worth the price. Now, that leads me to one frequently asked question, which is this just another version of Michael Sartain's course, or is it something that's replaceable with his course? No, it's not the same thing at all. Corey and Michael's course content, while they somewhat converge in terms of social circle networking and throwing events, because Corey also has video modules on that, they have their own methodology and their own process. So set realistic expectations when you come into this. I've seen quite a few times in the Q&A videos where he gets asked, but Michael said this and you said that. And he gets really pissed and triggered off of that. He basically says, this is not Michael's course. This is not Michael's material. This is my own opinion and how I do it. And so it's not the same thing. I have advice that's different from Michael. And I think it doesn't take long if you dive into it to see it. Now, they obviously work in similar circles. I believe Corey still films and edits a lot of Michael's events. And, they meet up often. However, Michael's system is, different period from Corey's. So if you take Personal Brand Creator Pro, there will be a methodology and systems on that, but it's different from Michael's. In fact, I probably guess it's significantly different. Corey has a lot more modules and videos on Premiere Pro, Adobe products, Lightroom, equipment, because he is a videographer and social media brand master. So he has all this technical knowledge. Whereas Michael's course, from what I can tell, it goes a lot more into depth into networking, organizing events, DMing women, getting them out, getting them to return to other events, documenting those events that are thrown, and repeating the process. So there's significant difference, but there is some convergence there. I would say I wouldn't be surprised if 80% of the course for Michael is on other things, like networking, events, and stuff. And then there's one module in here with like 10 videos or less on events. So it's like less than 10% of this course. So there is difference. This is much more creative focused. Michael's is probably less on the technical side. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he told his students just use a smartphone, and there's like no content at all on Premiere Pro or Lightroom or Photoshop or equipment or any of that. So what are the trade-offs there? Well, I think your content is going to look a lot more cinematic and visually appealing and just amazing with Corey's stuff. And then Michael's has his own system. It's separate. It's different. And while there is convergence, I think there's more focus on the networking aspect of that. So going back to some pros and cons. Pros of the course, I think there's so many benefits, and this is why I felt confident doing a review on this. this is, I take a lot of courses, do a lot of stuff, purchase a lot of products, but oftentimes I don't see fit to make a post about it. And that's because I don't know if the product is fully worth it. This one was, which is why I'm very happy to review it. I think he really over delivers, even with like the free or beginner content. He even has like a starter course for like $27 if you want something above the free content, but you also want something below the actual full content. So I think there's a starter course with like 25 videos in it for $27. And I think that's the same link. If you go to that link I mentioned, dreamlifelab.org/PBCP, it'll take you to the free course. And then once you finish that, I think you're offered the starter course or the full course. So anyhow, in terms of the benefits, one, which I already mentioned, is I up-leveled a lot of my pics. My previous photos, they weren't as bad as selfies, although I did do selfies a lot. But, that's one rule you learn. Never make selfies. They look terrible. But they were just really mediocre tourist photos. And so you just learn so much about what to do and what not to do. He also tells you, like, don't post with a bunch of your buddies. It just looks also very amateurish. Like, no one cares that you took a photo with 6 of your buddies in front of a wall. Like, that's not benefiting you in any way. So I just learned a lot more about how social media is not intended to be just some scrapbook for your own enjoyment. If you want to do that, well, you're not going to get the results he's promising. So if you want to do that, save it for Facebook or that's your own goal. But if you want to use it for making money or networking or dating, then you have to be much more targeted with the game plan. And so he does a whole breakdown on everything you need to optimize, from your bio to your photos to your username to what link you promote. So for example, in the bio, he says you have to put your location, what you do, and then a call to action that makes it very easy and straightforward for them to click a link or message you with a word to get started in your funnel. And so those are things that I think a lot of people are screwing up on. Their bio is like 50 job titles. He said, just have one job title. No one believes you if you have 7 job titles. Make the job title seem attractive. Try not to look like an employee. So there's all these like tips in there that can really help you. So I really felt like there's all these things I was doing wrong that I just wasn't aware of. The second thing is, I think another benefit is it can really just up-level your perception with others. Because part of social media is how you want others to perceive you. And when you have high-quality photos, and looking back, well, I took a lot of photos, many of them were not high quality or high value. When you have that saved, and he even has like a whole series of videos on how to store and save that in the cloud or in hard drives so you don't lose it. But when you have that saved and documented somewhere, you can always pull it up if you need it for a portfolio, if you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to build a personal brand, if you're trying to go on dates, if you want to use them in dating apps. So having that content there is super valuable. So I think that's a huge benefit too. I think another big benefit is simply that I have this skill that now I can use for the rest of my life. I can use this to create really good content if I wanted to get into selling my social media and video and photo services. I can use that as value arbitrage. If I wanted to pitch hotels or stays at locations or an ATV company or exotic car company or private jet company, and I wanted to do that value arbitrage and get to use something for free by offering my services. But I can also use that for others, friends, family, and myself to up level everyone's content online, because it's crazy how you could be the same person, but then just because the photograph is terrible, you look horrible. So there's so many things that are important that you can get from this. And it's just like a new way to kind of work on and improve and optimize your success in life. One of my favorite modules was one where he breaks down how you can use Instagram ads to target women that you care about in a very specific location. I just found that to be very innovative because no one ever mentions doing that. It's a very unique concept. It's very creative. It could potentially be very effective. And he also mentions how it's hard to meet women. You are going to a job and then the gym most of the week, just like she is, and that woman may go out once a week or a month to a nightclub or something, or a bar. So, the chances of bumping into her randomly are slim to none. So he really breaks down how with IG ads you can kind of increase your chances of getting around them at an affordable price, and using Instagram to continue that onto a date and whatnot. So a lot of very innovative strategies that no one else really ever talks about. And now let me get into some cons. I think a review would not be complete if I didn't mention the full pros and cons. And I think it builds trust. It builds honesty and transparency in the course. And so, I think no one would be upset, Corey included, if I was fully honest about this. So, some of the trade-offs to the course, one of them is that it is a lot of content and a lot of it is focused on kind of being that optimized creative artist in a way, because that's really one of Corey's main archetypes. And because of that, and because he has so much knowledge in all this, you have 150 videos on the technical things, like flying a drone the best way, or how to pose, how to edit things in Premiere Pro, how to take photo shoots and whatnot, and optimize things in Lightroom. The thing with that is it may be just overboard. I assume most of y'all are just everyday people, because that's what a lot of people in the course, they don't have any of this skill coming in. So I'd imagine for many of them, it's just like they don't want or need to go so in depth. Now there are some who you could just tell by how their brain is wired. They love all the technical details, and so I catch them in the Q&A calls, just asking very obscure, low return technical questions, like, oh, if I optimize the lens, if it's 22 millimeters instead of 24 millimeters, would that look a bit better? And I'm just thinking in my head, like, you're hitting very diminishing returns by all these like super technical, obscure details. Like, you really think that's going to be the difference between scoring a hot date versus not? The wideness of your lens by a couple millimeters. But I think that's one thing I would recommend you just being cognizant of a bit. And you can do that by simply just realizing you don't have to watch all the videos. You don't have to become a master at all the Premiere Pro editing tricks that he mentions in the course. In fact, unlike me, I think if you finish like 50% of the course, you're probably ahead of most. So you don't have to finish all the videos like I did. And you're probably, as you know, Corey says, most people who get through his content or get a decent way, they're already better videographers and photographers than most professionals he's run into, because his content and his tips, and I think this is the most unique thing about what he's offering here, is that they're all wired and geared towards the angles, the poses and stuff that will lead to more high status, high value for dating, networking, and career. Whereas a lot of the other photographers, you may have another photography course, but it won't teach you how to do that to optimize towards those goals. They have different goals and different backgrounds. Someone may teach you how to take good nature photography, but you win the battle but lose the war. That's not going to optimize your dating and success. So I just found it to be a very unique niche that unfortunately not a lot of other people actually went into. I really think the sweet spot though is getting beyond the phone photographer. So of the best profiles I've seen in the Facebook group for this course, they're not the ones who are still using their phone to take photos. There's a good amount of people in the course doing that, but they're the ones who invested in a professional camera, typically the ones that Corey recommends, like the Sony a7 IV, which is not cheap. And that leads me to another, con's a strong word, but another thing you want to watch out for in the course, which is that in addition to the course itself, if you really want to start to up-level yourself, he recommends a decent amount of equipment that also costs a decent amount of money. So that's another thing that I had to really start to save up for, buy used, and do all of that to really up-level my game. A lot of the technical content just works a lot better when you are using and optimizing a raw photo, which can only be captured through either one of the very latest iPhones or through a mirrorless or DSLR camera. So if you really want to get to that next level, then keep in mind that the course itself is not all you have to offer, all that is that you have to buy. And people still get results with posting on their phone and taking photos on their phone, but I think they're limiting themselves because like a lot of the tips he gives you in Lightroom and stuff can't really be done well with a phone photo. So just keep that in mind. And I think that leads to another thing. So let me touch on the way the Q&As are structured. So you're given access to a Facebook group, and that's your main point of communication within a community beyond self-learning in the course. In the Facebook group, I would say Corey is semi-active, so he'll answer maybe half the questions that are posted, but oftentimes if you want a question answered directly, don't just post it in the group. He may see it, he may not. He typically answers like half of those or less. If you want every single one of your questions answered, what he does is about once a month or once every 2 weeks, he will post a Q&A thread, and you're limited to a max of 3 questions. You ask them in that thread, and then he will film a pre-recorded video answering all those questions. So it is not a live interactive Zoom session, but he does that, I believe, because it's just too hard to arrange a time zone that would work for everyone for interactive things, and then he can just get to the questions on his own time, and you can watch that on his own time, on your own time. So, I can see where he's coming from, and I think generally that works for me. Some people would prefer live and interactive, but I mean, it's worked for me so far, so that's what you get. And if you do post questions in there, make sure they are short, concise, specific, and they are, what or how type of question. I have seen, like I said, I've watched every Q&A video he's filmed, and there's a lot in there, probably about 40, because this course has been in existence for like the last 4 years. And so because of that, there's a lot of content in there, and I can tell no one else really watches a lot of other Q&As because the same questions keep popping up on occasion, and then they often make the mistake of not asking the question right, which can really trigger him. So just be careful about that. He doesn't like it when you write a paragraph and it's not even a question. It's just like statements, and he doesn't even know what you're asking. So, he can go on really long rants because he's upset when you do that. Or, if you say something that criticizes him, or, it's just phrased in a way that's like attacking him, he doesn't like that as well. And, it's human nature. So it makes sense, So like, don't never phrase a question like, Michael Sartain said this, but you said that. That will kind of set him off. So, he often kindly asks you to not do that in the future. But yeah, I see a lot of people who still do it, either because they're new or they didn't see the last video. So that's how the Q&As are mentioned. Now, how does this relate to it being a con or a trade-off, or something I felt like could have been better about the course? Well, I mean, not much. I would just say that was something that I wanted to share with the structure of the course. And you are limited to 3 quick questions. He loves it when you add context. So you don't get like that full immersive experience with him. And I guess the con from that is that there's upsells in the course. So don't expect this to be like end all be all. You purchase the course, you're unlocked everything. There's plenty of, pitches within the community once you're in there. So Corey mentions that, he sees this course as starting material. He doesn't see this as it'll fix everything. So he's often pitching in the Q&A sessions the concept of this is next level up, his accelerator. So what the accelerator is you jump on, I believe it's like weekly Zoom calls with him, and there seems to be several people at least who have purchased this, and this is likely higher ticket, probably in the 4 figures. I don't know how much it is, but instead of just taking the course and figuring it out yourself, you jump on these weekly calls where it is interactive. And so you're basically purchasing his time and more interaction with him. And he does these group interactive calls to kind of accelerate your progress and results. And you have a lot more time in that Zoom call to ask him questions, and he'll break things down, and he'll give more exclusive tips to really kind of up level you to the next level. So not too surprising, like a lot of these online courses have that next level up, but I guess the trade-off there is that, like, you think you finally you put in all this money, you finally think, okay, now I got it all, but then there's always another level that they're trying to sell you. So that is a bit frustrating, but like I said, there's still a lot of value in this course itself. You can still get a lot out even if you don't purchase the accelerator. For others, I mean, that's something that people don't bat an eye at, $5K, or I don't know how much it is, but we all just have different salaries and price ranges that fit us. For me, not as much, but I mean, I've seen plenty of people who, it didn't take them long to purchase that. He also offers Instagram audits. So on his profile, you you can sign up for a free audit. And then in the course community Facebook group, you can also sign up for an audit. What I found is there's a strenuous screening process. So if you don't really fit the bill for an accelerator lead, you don't actually get the audit. And I think this is likely to kind of save his time. He's mentioned that he's done thousands upon thousands of audits. So I assume as his business has grown, which I'm sure it has, he has his own profile is really aesthetic and beautiful and high status. You can find his Instagram profile at Corey Cha, that's CoreyCha, to get a sense of his own content. But his call to action there is, DM me for a free IG audit, and he's done so many of them. So I applied for that, and I didn't meet the qualifications, unfortunately, for that audit. Nonetheless, I guess the next best way is basically go through the Q&A videos, because he's done a decent amount of audits. So what he says for other people likely applies for yourself as well, even if you don't qualify for an audit. So there's that strenuous kind of qualification process. The first person you'll talk to is not Corey. You'll go through a initial phone screening with him, and then eventually, if you make it there, you will talk to Corey, and he'll screen you some further. So yeah, if you don't get the audit, not the end of the world. Like I said, there's other ways to get some value to improve your Instagram. But that's another thing. You are pitched these things, and like I said, a couple $1,000s for some people is nothing. As you've seen, a lot of people out there apparently can afford even Michael Sartain's Men of Action coaching. So if you're interested in just like leveling up and going straight to like essentially what he's offering at a higher level, higher ticket, I did set up another pretty link to take you straight to one of his offerings I found, which is a social media boot camp in Las Vegas. So just if you're curious to like check this out, learn more about it, it's out of my price range for now. I mean, I really have to stretch, and but for others, this may be like nothing to them, but it's $2,500, and apparently you get a month's worth of content in Vegas, access to exotic mansions and cars, and essentially it's an accelerated boot camp of sorts where you get him to take all this content for you, and he probably teaches you along the way, and you get like access to like the best places in Vegas, some really exclusive events and whatnot. dreamlifelab.org/PBCP bootcamp, all in lowercase. So that's the link, dreamlifelab.org/PBCP bootcamp. PBCP stands for Personal Brand Creator Pro, obviously, but yeah, that's the short link if you want to check that out. For some millionaires, that's probably a steal. You fly into Vegas for a couple days, and he just kind of builds your brand for you. But yeah, I wish I could, but just not in my price range now. But very interesting stuff. And yeah, I would say so. Now let me get into some more frequently asked questions about this whole program and this course. One, was it worth it? Do you think I should buy? What results did you get from it? So I think it was definitely worth it because, like I said, I've seen the tangible results of improving all these photos. I do travel and visit really cool places, a decent amount, because I do have the ability to live and work remote. So that has really been a huge opportunity, and that's why I found that this course was worth it, because I was going to many travel destinations. I really wanted to up-level my content, and literally looking at all the photos I took before and after, I mean, you see a world of difference. It's just ridiculous. And I mean, if you're curious about my own content, you can check out my Instagram. I have multiple handles. There's one at No Excuses Will, and there's another handle at No Limits Will. One's more kind of personal development focus for this podcast and whatnot. That's the No Excuses Will one. So you can see the before and after there. I've left some of my old photos, but I've archived or deleted a lot of them just because that's something he recommends. Like sometimes it's just best to start from scratch with a new profile, just because you've done so much damage with all the crappy photos from your previous stuff that it's best to just delete them all and start from scratch. But just because I've had that brand and username for a while, I just started archiving a lot. So I think you'll still be able to see the before and after, although I think in time I'll start to archive most, if not all, of the old content, because a lot of it was just so terrible. The shots were just so typical touristy. Hey, stare at the camera, give a thumbs up with like 100 people behind you, and like the worst time of day to shoot and stuff like that. There's just things I didn't know. So, just to give you a few more tips, he recommends shooting at sunrise or sunset golden hour. He recommends a high quality mirrorless camera with a wide angle lens. He recommends not looking at the camera, having high status fashion, and then shooting with the rule of thirds and leading lines, which he explains what those are in the course to really establish the best composition shot. And also to leave out any spaces. So any dead space in the shot where there's not any props or anything going on, you want to kind of frame out of the shot. So lots of really good tips there. Another frequently asked question, and potentially a con that I felt I didn't like about the course or could have been better is, well, isn't this course teaching you to be fake, making you seem like you are richer or more high status than you are, or attracting gold diggers, people you don't want? So I've definitely seen this question or some variation of it thrown out in a Q&A session to him. And that's something that you have to consider because is that true? And it's two questions. One is, is this, turning you into a fake person where, they expect you go on a date and they expect you to take them out to high-end restaurants and stuff all the time. But you can't afford it actually, because the whole thing was kind of faked where you're going to these high-end hotel lobbies, but you can't even afford the hotel. And then the second question is, and then you attract people who only want you for your money. So let's answer these questions. So Corey answers the gold digger question by saying that, first off, chances are you've never actually met a gold digger, and you probably won't. What you're picturing, or the type of people you're gonna meet, you're overly scared that they're gold diggers, but they're really not. They actually care about a bunch of other things. Real gold diggers only exist in like certain areas of like LA, and those types of people are really optimized, and they really prey or seek out the multimillionaires. So his assertion is essentially that you're actually never going to meet a real gold digger, and what you're picturing as a gold digger, it's not the actual type of people you attract. It's not going to happen. And he's met actual gold diggers in LA, and they're a certain breed, and you probably don't have the level of content even close to it yet to even consider to attract a real gold digger or anything close to it. So what are my own thoughts to that? I think he has some good points. I don't know if he fully answered the question, because I'm sure, there's a lot of people concerned about that, that whole gold digger thing. And I could see some of them responding with, well, okay, maybe they're not these high end real gold diggers, but they will be like more slightly focused on my money and my status, these superficial things, if I take the course. And so my thoughts are, I think most people asking this, their content still kind of sucks. They think they've made it already because they bought the course and they're learning from it. But their content is usually, and you see this a lot in the Q&As, it's usually not as good as they think it is when they ask him to review it. So, to put it another way, you may think, oh, this is simple, I got it. And then you go into some high-end place, it's in front of some bridge in San Francisco, and you're like, I'm in front of the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh man, this is going to attract so many gold diggers. Or, I went to this one high-end restaurant. One photo is really not going to do much. Someone's just going to be like, oh, you're a tourist. Or oh, you went to one restaurant because you saved up. And then, like, even if you have like 9 photos, usually it's not like as mind-blowing as you think. So it's definitely a skill of, selection of location, framing of shot, posing, having the right props in your shot. All these things, I think, is a facet of marketing. So chances are you'll probably still need like many months of work. And, I think I put in a lot of time. I in addition to the course itself, I probably spent at least 20 hours a month taking photos in what I deemed were sought after locations. And then even then, when I would, briefly share some of my photos with some people, I wasn't getting the reactions I thought I was. I was like, oh yeah, this is a really cool place in San Francisco. It has this heart. It's like right in the center. It was literally in the courtyard that Corey recommended. But, I showed it to someone else and they're like, it looks really pretty, but like it doesn't really, it's not really that high status. It's like it's a heart sculpture and then there's palm trees in the background, but that doesn't really say like your high status. So point being, you'll probably need at least another 6 months of dedicated work to actually even get to the point of having photos that are actually any good. And then even then, I think it's still something where I don't know if all girls or many girls only care about money as much as you think. I've yet to, like most... There's oftentimes that meme online where someone's like, there's videos about this or social experiments where some dude will be like, I'm rich, look at my bank account. And he'll show that video or they'll try and flex their money. And the girl is like turned off. It's always the other way around where it's like the guy with money, for some reason, surprisingly is still struggling. Like you'll see that on occasion. But so where are the gold diggers then? But it's never the other way where like you're funny, engaging, you're interesting, you've been to cool places, but you're not that rich. Those people, like, you never really see them struggling as much, which is interesting. But yeah, with all that being said, while I did make a lot of good points, with Corey on why you shouldn't worry about that, I still think to a degree it is something that I myself am a bit concerned about, specifically more so as a con to this course and this whole idea of this social circle high status information selling, is that the gripe I have with it is that it is very focused on one lever of attraction, which is essentially, high status to some form or other. And I feel like there's a lot of other things that you can do that women care about. And when you end up being so one-dimensional, which can happen with courses like this, it becomes I feel like it's just too one-dimensional. Like if you lead with money and status, that's all they see you as. And that's something Michael Sartain's talked about as well, which is funny because he sells status and stuff like that. But I think his point is like you don't lead with money, you lead with other stuff. But still, like status, I mean, if you lead and your whole identity is I go to high status venues, I'm a high status type of environment person, that may be a big and maybe one of the main things she wants from you that you have to provide. But I really think that most women and a lot of couples and relationships, they form from various other facets and levers of attraction. Are you funny? Do you have good mental health? Are you playful? Are you in shape? Are you athletic? Are you kind, caring? And now we're talking about relationship stuff, but kind, caring. Are you intelligent? Intelligence is big for, anything. Short-term dating or relationships. So, there's all these other levers of success. And I don't feel like the course really addresses them as much as they should. And I'm sure, there's some stuff in the course for some of that other stuff, but I would say it's clearly focused on mostly status. And yet, there's so many ways of conveying that one trait of status that there's so much to talk about and multiple ways to prove it. From style and fashion, which is, that's the one area where, style and fashion also indicates mental health, intelligence, social savviness, social intelligence, emotional intelligence. So he touches on style briefly, but, it's mostly, the photos and locations you post, the videos you post, and just kind of showing exclusive places you're in, or exclusive things you're doing, like riding a jet ski or whatnot. And so I just find that a bit too one-dimensional for my taste. And I understand. Yeah, I think Corey would argue back, well, I do have a mindset chapter, and in there we talk about more than just status. We talk about behaviors and mindsets of what a high status person would act, and how to avoid being low value or creepy, and that goes beyond status. Well, I would argue that's still a facet of status. And so I'm a huge fan of Tucker Max's book, What Women Want. It used to be called Mate, but they rebranded the book. And in there, he talks about a variety of other things that matter. Kindness, assertiveness, humor, mental health, physical health, style, fashion, social proof, being a leader in your local community, being, having prestige, delivering value, working with your tribe, being a tender defender, assertive but not too assertive, and then also kind, being funny, having a sense of humor, and all these other things. And so, and eating healthy and having common interests and all those things. And I think he may touch on a couple of them to some degree, but definitely not humor and being funny, and definitely not some other areas. So that's just one thing you got to look out for. Like, I don't recommend seeing this as the end all be all. I think it's one lever that you can use, but you don't have to go 0 to 100 with it. Push it up a bit, and then also work on some other things, and so forth. So that's that. And then the next question is, was this worth it to you? What were your results? So, what are my results so far? I think, so far I've built a pretty solid new Instagram profile. And I would say the last 50 photos on it are high quality. And so I've really built up something that has a decent amount of history to prove that I just don't have one photo, but I have a decent exposure there. And through the tips I learned in the course, I've been able to build that up, increase my following a bit. And, in terms of results, like I said, I'm only about 3 months in, so I haven't seen too much yet, but I will say that when I do show my profile or someone sees my profile and I'm there with them, I will notice that they will spend more time to scroll through it. They will, pause and look at one photo they really like more than they used to. And so with stuff like that, I think it is generating some level of more perceived value in me. I used to feel, and sometimes I do feel a bit icky about that because it's so superficial, kind of like I mentioned in my last point about it being so focused on status. And while I do wish people liked me just for me and my personality and whatnot, at the end of the day, I think we're all superficial. So otherwise, I'd be a hypocrite. Like, I find women attractive for how they look. So that's one thing. And then sometimes it's just getting your foot in the door. Like, without this, they may not even want to follow me, or they may not even care to respond back. So it really gives you more of a chance to, like, at least get your foot in the door and your head into the game and your body in the game, rather than just like being rejected off the bat. And so I don't think, and I would not want how I look and my status to be everything. But I think it's a good way of getting your foot in the door so that you can actually have a chance, learn more about that person, see if you both care about personality and values and hobbies and have similar hobbies and values, and go from there. In terms of actual results in networking, career, dating, I haven't seen much yet, to be honest. I've gotten a few more followers from women, but I don't, my lifestyle doesn't lend myself really to going out to clubs or bars or whatnot, where I'm in a situation where I have the opportunity to ask them to follow me on Instagram or or anything related to that often. I'm usually working a lot and then going to the gym, and then in my free time I may go on some hikes or some restaurants or some cool area to take photos. So at the time, I haven't found the systems and the tips in the course to really lend to a lot of, as mentioned, growing that dating funnel. But once again, I'm only 3 months into this course. I mean, and that's a lot, but it's also not a lot given how many videos are in the course. And he does have videos teaching you how to use Photo Feeler and then optimize your photos on all the main dating apps. I have been trying that, but nothing's really hit yet, which likely means my photos could use more work. They're probably not as incredible as they could be. So I need to work on that. At the same time, there's certain shots just based off my own values and interests, I don't want to take, or, I'm hesitant and not sure if I want to experiment with them yet. For example, one that's often done is you're in front of an exotic car or in front of a yacht. And to me, it just seems a bit too posed, a bit too try hard. Like, you're clearly showing off your wealth, even if you're saying you're not, and you just, the car just happens to be there. But that's a style of photo that I've seen on Corey's profile and others that I just don't want to go there. That just seems too much of the whole kind of superficial status thing. So I'm just going to work on more of the kind of photos that fit my archetype of like lifestyle travel, where like I'm in some type of lagoon or hot spring or something, or in front of a lake. And yeah, I mean, it's still along the same vein of status, but like not as in your face, and just continue to work on that. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue to try and expand my dating funnel, because I may have accrued maybe like 50 to 60 followers off of it, but it's usually mostly just friends or acquaintances or people I bumped into or whatnot. And so it's really so far not leading to a lot of organic discovery. And yeah, I think, while not crucial, I think it would be nice to get more followers, so I don't have just a small amount of followers. And yeah, although he mentions various ways to kind of increase the traffic to your site, I mean, it's been tough. Creating content that goes viral or gets views that leads to followers is really tough to do on Instagram. And I've been trying. I've probably posted like 50 reels. And yeah, I mean, some will get views, but that doesn't always mean followers or anything. And then, in terms of like how you actually get them to see, people to see your profile, I mean, you have to go to certain events somehow where that comes up in the conversation. And at least for me, it doesn't. For him, where he's, probably in a lot of nighttime venues or whatnot, or networking events, or it's probably easier. And then if you're limited to online, I mean, it's like mostly like plugging your Instagram through your dating app. So yeah, it hasn't really taken off. And then there's the IG ad thing, which I've experimented with, but me being on a limited budget, I can't really be throwing a lot of money on IG ads. So that's that. I wish I could say there's more results, but despite that, I still think the program is so worth it. I mean, just seeing the difference between my photos before and after I started working and going through this program, I mean, they're like night and day. And I don't know if any other program would have been able to teach me this. I mean, this is not the only course I've taken on photography. I also purchased one by a travel influencer, but I just feel like I've gotten the most value so far from this course in terms of taking better photos. And so I still think it's worth it. I think that's a skill set, and I now have a collection of photos that I can keep with me and use for the rest of my life. That said, I've seen other people benefit from this through the Facebook community. One classmate recently posted how he posted a high status photo of him on the rooftop of his company building on LinkedIn. Through that, a lot of his bosses and managers who previously really didn't know him because he was one of many at the company liked and engaged with that post and photo. And he believed, and this subsequently led to a substantial raise, about double the normal raise amount he would get per year. And he says that, this was accomplished through the course. So really interesting how that can happen, just by posting content that puts you in the best light, but also helps your team. I think it really just leads to potentially greater results. I've experimented a bit with that with my own LinkedIn. I think it led to some engagement. And surprisingly, the CEO of my company did comment in one of the photos, which is funny. So it does kind of work in that way. But also, I don't want to be too over the top with it. So I want to be careful with that. And if I do it, I don't want to over post it. And if I do post, I just want to post things related to the company or places near or functions related to company location functions. So yeah, it can help others. I've actually DM'd and asked a couple fellow classmates of the course if they thought the course was worth it, and their answers were also yes, it was. It really up-leveled my content and helped me throw better events and meet better people. So currently, I'm just not at that level. I haven't really experimented with throwing my own events or anything yet in that module, although I finished the videos there. So, that's something to consider and think about if I ever were to do. But, so far, I think it's been worth it. I mean, I really feel like had I not taken this course, I would have had tons of missed opportunities where I went to a really exclusive, cool location and I just didn't take good photos at all, and I wouldn't have been able to capture it. So it was really good. The one other success I got from it was my company had a photo contest at our company retreat this year, and my photo won. They selected 3 photos out of the 200 plus employees who attended, and my photo apparently got selected because it was the most aesthetically pleasing and whatnot, and relevant to the theme of the event. And through that, I think I won a small gift. It was like a small gift basket, like not the biggest thing in the world, but indicative of small progress. I hope to really continue the growth of this because I don't want to stop here. Clearly, there's a lot of room to improve. I want to get to a point where my profile is substantial. So it doesn't have to have 1 million followers or whatnot. I just want it to have like 10K followers or 5K. And I want the post to have a lot of engagement and whatnot. But the main thing is I want it to generate success in terms of real meetings and dates, events with women, with networking, with career opportunities, and so forth. And so we'll see what happens. Some of these effects, they could be like unnoticeable or unattributable because, I don't know, sometimes people will be nicer to you because they saw your new and improved Instagram, but they never bring that up. So there are things like that could be happening that aren't. I actually ran into a business person I was following for a while online recently, randomly, and I basically invited him to an escape room. And what happened was he told me to email him to keep in touch, which I did. He didn't respond to that. But then I tagged him on my Instagram in a story, just with the photo we took together and saying that he was a really cool person to meet. He was kind in person too. And then through that, he told me he emailed me because after seeing that Instagram tag, he found my email because he searched for it in his inbox, found it in spam, and then replied to me. So was that because he was tagged and then alerted, then he saw my profile, saw that my profile was high value, which made it worth his while to search his inbox and then his spam and then email me back. And he didn't say yes to the escape room thing, but it wasn't a no either. He was like, when are you thinking about it? I have plans this weekend. So I can't say for sure that my profile contributed to it, but it certainly may not have hurt if he did bother to glance at my profile after seeing that Instagram story tag. So some of the results of this are yet to be seen or hidden. Clearly, I have a long way to go because right now it's still not generating enough traffic to lead to business, career, or network or dating results substantially. But I hope in time that's what I would want. I don't care as much about the amount of followers or anything else, in as much of as if it helps me get the leads that I want. And clearly, there's still some room to improve there. I am going to end this long, lengthy podcast episode with my final frequently asked question, if you will. And I think one thing I would guess people would ask is, are there any closing thoughts, specifically around, things you found about the course that were interesting, worth sharing, tips of value, or things you disagreed about? So, I think one thing worth mentioning is the whole pre-selection photos concept. So when you look at what Michael Sartain teaches, it's a different system. So don't expect to come into this or challenge Corey by saying, well, Michael Sartain said to do this. How come you say not to do this? Because that would trigger him. He doesn't like that type of language because it's his own school of thought, his own advice. They're separate programs. But one thing that comes up a lot is this whole pre-selection thing. In science, it's called mate choice copying, which is where the female species will often, and this goes beyond humans, many species do this, but if they see one mate who is getting a lot of attention from other mates, they naturally assume that this person is more desirable and more attractive, and they will do the same and go for that mate. And so what Michael does is he encourages a lot of these kind of pre-selection photos and videos where, he's posing in front of the camera, looking at the camera with 10 women in bikinis or whatnot. And in theory, this is supposed to kind of, generate attraction and whatnot. Now you'll see none of Corey's photos has that, and he recommends against it. So I found this interesting. I mean, there's clearly a debate about this, and Corey has shown that he has photos like this. He's experimented with this in the past with many others, given that he is good friends with, a lot of people who have the access in Vegas to do this, like Real Social Dynamic coach Luke Crow and Michael Sartain, amongst many others. And he even has these people come on his course for like a 1-hour video. And, he's shown that he has photos like this himself where, he's just like sitting there with a bunch of women in bikinis on a yacht. And his assertion is that it usually hurts you more than it helps you for various reasons, especially if the body language looks like you barely know these girls. And if you don't have a job or business or something where you have to do this for your job, for plausible deniability. So I won't go too deep into it. I think he explains it much better than me. But the point being, it can look rather try hard, especially if it's clear you don't know these girls. And then, it could paint you as a more kind of player type. And then also, I think the biggest one is that he's found that it can put off women and it will mostly or completely just attract men. So he says that a lot of people selling a dating coaching program or whatnot will do this because it attracts men to pay for the coaching program, because in their simple minds, for men who have different minds than women, it's just like, oh, he must have a lot of women. Look at all that. But for women, he says they analyze everything much more deeply. And if it looks like, none of you know each other or whatnot, it could just look or turn into something that's rather off or turn people off. So that's why he has experience with it and ended up like not posting any. And I guess that leads to the second part of that question is like, are there things that you disagree with about the course and whatnot? Sure, yeah, there are, but at the same time, when you're taking a course, I found that typically you will always run into contradictory or conflicting advice if you have knowledge of advice from other gurus. And this was once again the case here. And my mentality and rule for that is, hey, while I'm taking this course and I paid for this course, I am simply going to just trust this information at face value, do exactly what he says, and tune out all the other conflicting advice I got from, various free content online, because I invested in this. This is his way. And I understand that, sure, sometimes there's some bad advice thrown in with the good advice. No one's perfect. No one has all the answers. That said, it'll still lead you in a better general direction. And I think that's an issue I see with a lot of the people in the Q&A sessions. A lot of them are just so hung up on one little thing that some other guru said that conflicts with this person. And it is frustrating and confusing when you hear that, because you start to question. I relate, I understand. You start to question what's true, what other lies, or not lies, but like well-intentioned bad advice that was given to you. And you want to clarify that. But yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. And like I said, you will run into conflicting advice from other coaches. My philosophy is just try it all out, tune out any other advice until you finish this course and you try everything out. And then once you've given it a good swing or two, that's when you can start to experiment with other things on your own. Yeah. But until then, at least give it a shot, just follow what he has to say. So that's that. I mean, if you want specific examples, I mean, I will say that, I think he has certain opinions or thoughts about the certain style of content that he makes that will lead to success. And I feel like there are other ways of doing it. For example, he claims that Dan Bilzerian, like Michael, can only get away with posting himself with so many other women because he has a brand, Ignite, where he's selling products. So like Michael, he has plausible deniability by saying that, I'm doing this because I have to work. Well, I followed Dan on Instagram loosely since like 2014, and Ignite really only came up as a brand in the last couple years. So there's definitely long stretches of years where he was just posting his lifestyle as that kind of like, playboy guy with a bunch of dudes. I mean, not dudes, a bunch of women around him all the time. So clearly there's other paths to the same or a similar level of success in that arena. And, while Corey is really adamant on how posting that pre-selection stuff will just hurt you rather than help you, it's clear that you can't, there are certain ways of getting away with it if executed properly, despite not having that be your job. Sure, Michael's a bikini host, so he gets away with it, but maybe that's not necessary. So yeah, I think there's certain things like that where, he has a certain style of just kind of posting artistic photos alone in a sought after location. But I don't know if that's the only way. And so, I don't have a lot of pre-selection photos, but I generally hear from a lot of other, women that they do look and care to see if you are a loner or a creep by looking for photos where you're with friends, and sometimes female friends. So there's stuff like that. Whereas he's just adamant, just like, don't post any of that. No photos with friends, no pre-selection stuff. But while I was doing the course, I just followed everything he had to say. I got rid of, I think I had some more photos with, just a female friend or acquaintance, and I started to get rid of some of those. And yeah, like I said, just keep to that philosophy for now, at least, before you start experimenting. But I don't think it's the only way, despite, what he says. So yeah, there's some conflicting advice here and there, but like I said, this is his program, his way of doing things. Is it the only way? No. I mean, a lot of my friends, coworkers, peers, they met their significant other or whatnot in simpler ways, just as part of their social circle, at work, through a dating app. Nothing too fancy, nothing crazy. They weren't running things through Lightroom, Photoshop, Photo Feeler, and Premiere Pro. They didn't purchase expensive equipment. They weren't doing any of this. So I don't think it's necessary. It's not the only path, but I think the point being is if you want to up level the quality of results you're getting, it's that. And it is a lot of work, I bought a used DJI Mini 2 drone, and that's a lot of work to learn and then fly. But doable within like 20 hours of focused work. And that's just one facet of many different things that you have to put in the time into. So it's a lot of effort. And I still think the payoff is going to be there, but just, keep that in mind. What exactly do you want out of life? And is it worth some extra effort to potentially, up level your results further? So that's that. I think, yeah, there's some things that I want to experiment with in the future, but I think for the next month or two, I just want to keep sticking to what he says. But I think other gurus have different thoughts as well, that if after I've given it a really good swing, if it's still not working, then I'll turn to those. Like one thing another person says is you don't need 100 photos, and Corey's adamant on building up like 100 photos on your profile to get that Rolodex of a collection and to build your following. But others are like, if you have 9 really good photos, that's enough. But I think there's some wiggle room. I think even Corey's, he thinks a minimum of 9. I think he's mentioned that as well on your profile grid. So yeah, there's that, just to give you one of many examples of stuff. But yeah, I think that's it. Once again, I think the course is very much worth it. Check it out. I set up a Pretty Link. So if you go to my website's Pretty Link at dreamlifelab.org/PBCP, you will get a link straight to the free program. And then once you go through the free program, then you are pitched a paid program. The free program is actually pretty solid. I think you get 5 or 10 videos, and they're really high quality videos, really well done. It's basically its own mini course. I mean, you get something like 5 hours of content. It's really solid. So even without paying, you will learn a lot on its own. It's such a unique niche. So unlike other saturated niches out there, if you don't purchase from him, there's not a lot of other choices to learn how to optimize your whole social media for these express specific purchases. You may get programs on other goals, like how to take a good wedding photography photo or landscape photo, but it won't teach you the maneuvers to actually improve on these goals. So you get, differences in how the photo techniques work. So I really think it's worth it. This is not sponsored by any means. That link is an affiliate link, which means I do get a small commission and no extra cost to you. If you do end up going through that and eventually purchasing within a time period through my link. I'm not really doing this for the affiliate commissions because I one, this is not going to get a lot of traffic, and it's not going to get a lot of clicks. I mean, this is a one and done podcast episode on this course. I'm not going to continuously promote it. I just felt that it was very valuable and worth sharing on my own. It's not sponsored, and it is an affiliate link, but I really don't expect to make anything from it, just because I have such a small following online. So if you can purchase through that link, I'd appreciate it, but I'm not expecting to make a cent from it just because I have such a small following online that I'm not going to get much. That being said, I just found it to be a really interesting course, and I could probably honestly talk about the specifics of this for a lot longer and the pros and cons and whatnot, but I just found it to be so interesting, and I wanted a way to share it with someone else who would actually care or be interested enough. And it's just such a unique experience to have this thing where it's essentially a high value experience, and a way of improving your status and how you come across on social media and through your photography, which is such a unique offering. So that's why I did this, and it's just really nothing like it. So I'm really grateful I took it, especially because I have been traveling, as I've been documenting in my secret travel newsletter over the last 2 years, and because I'm going to all these places, I just felt it would have been such a shame if I didn't know how to take photos, and I took these really crappy photos, and then I left the places, and then I stopped traveling, and I wouldn't have nothing but like mediocre photos to remember the experience. So, but it's more than remembering it for myself. I really learned a lot about the mindset of social media, because it's not about you, it's about marketing yourself in the best way to the perception of others. Social media is about others, not you. So many really interesting facts. I'm going to end this with a final tip that I learned from the course, which is essentially around optimizing your photos. So generally, after I take my photo with my mirrorless camera, I go ahead and I import them into Lightroom, and then sometimes Photoshop as well. What I do there is I load up Corey's presets and a few other presets I've purchased from other people, travel influencers and whatnot. I scroll through them, and I just generally get a sense of which one makes my image pop the best. I look for things that are more authentic rather than too oversaturated or too blown out, just because Corey, as well as many others, they recommend a more like realistic photo rather than something that's highly edited, because then the viewer notices it's highly edited, and that's kind of off-putting. It's not as genuine. So something to just kind of subtly touch up the colors. And then from there, I usually turn down the intensity of that preset further if it's still too much. And then I make my own manual tweaks from there. So he goes in detail on levers that you can switch, but I generally work on like moving up or down the temperature setting, the exposure setting, the contrast setting, and then just depending on the colors, I may play with some colors or whatnot. And then from there, depending on the resolution of the photo and just how far away I am, I can look kind of grainy. And then there's certain situations where I just can't bring my bulky camera into a shoot or a hike, so I have to take it with my phone. So he also teaches you how to use a AI tool built into Lightroom to enhance the resolution of the photo, and then decrease the noise. From there, I may take it into Photoshop if there's a bunch of other tourists in the photo, Generally, I avoid this because I want to get my shot as perfect in the photo shoot as possible. So I generally don't have to take it in the light Photoshop because there are no people in there. But if there are, he gives you a few techniques like the clone stamp tool or generative AI fill to be able to quickly get rid of other people and have it look authentic. And also get rid of things that just don't look good but are there in a high status photo, like a lamp post, a stop sign, a handicap seat in the jacuzzi, stuff like that. And that's it. From there, he gives me the settings to export the photo, which I do, and then I airdrop it from my MacBook to my iPhone. I choose the best one out of the various ones I took, and I crop it and line it up how he recommends it for the most symmetry and the best lines. Post it onto my Instagram, and then he gives tips on how to caption it. Typically, you want some type of witty, funny saying or a song lyric, and then you add your hashtags in the comments, not in the caption because it looks tacky in the caption. And then there is an exclusive Telegram group for this course where you can post your Instagram post, and your fellow classmates will engage with that post for you to boost up the engagement for that post so it doesn't look like no one's ever commented. So, like I said, there's a lot of extra exclusive bonuses in the course, like that engagement group, which really helps. So that's that. I mean, lots of really amazing stuff in this course, and frankly, I think I'm well ahead of the pack. For example, like I said, he recommended 100 photos on your profile. I'm about like 75% there, and most of my classmates may only have like 30 photos or 40. The best ones have maybe 40. So I'm almost there at 100, and I'm sure I'll breeze past that soon enough. And yeah, it's just really inspiring because he tells you, like, even in your city, even if it's not a big city, maybe even if it's a small town, there's exclusive, interesting places to visit for your photos. There are attractive women and high-value men, high-earning men there. So you can make it work even if you're not in like the most exclusive city. Same thing with fashion and style. That's something you can up level. So thanks for listening, and check it out again at dreamlifelab.org/PBCP. It's been a joy to discuss this program and the ins and outs of it. I have more to say, but I think that covers the bulk of it. And thank you so much for your time. Once again, that is an affiliate link, just to be fully transparent there. I'll get a small commission at no extra cost to you if you go through that. If you want to give me a little thank you for something like that, you can go through that link if you're anticipating purchasing anyways. Otherwise, I accept Venmo donations or whatnot for all this free content. But I'm not expecting anything, given that I have such a small podcast and small following. I probably won't get any sales or anything, which is totally fine because, once again, I think I just want to share things of value that were very interesting. Let me know your thoughts. I'm really curious to you if you know of any similar programs out there that aren't like the ones I mentioned. I know there's one that's been emerging with this guy called Paul Rebot, and I'm sure Luke used to, or RSD Luke used to do something like this. But other than those people, I don't know of anything else. Did you find something else out there that was better or worse than this, or stuff that like you've heard about, but like you also heard that no one actually got real results from it after purchasing and investing in it? So let me know what you think. I'm curious because I think that's probably the most important thing. So many people are trying to sell dating or networking courses or whatnot, but you got to check the testimonials. Are people showing any real results, or are they really just saying like, yeah, it was good, it was nice? So thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Subscribe.